Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another RJ Sanderson live and interactive web app. As you saw, the music went a little bit longer and saved me from a dance there, Roy and Rick. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for coming along this afternoon.
Thanks, Paul. I thought the music was so good. That's why it was up so loud. What's and all, live and interactive. I love it, Paul.
That's it. Exactly. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. 10 steps on how to make yourself or make your business ready to come out of COVID lockdown. It's been an extraordinarily difficult time for many people, many families, many businesses. Roy and the team have done a fantastic job in putting together some great ideas, 10 simple steps on how to prepare for success and working your way out of what's been a really difficult time. So thanks, Roy and the team, for putting that together. We'll cover that off today. National webinar covered particularly all down the east coast of Australia, and we'll talk through those numbers shortly. But as always, it's very much live and interactive. Down the bottom of your screen, there's a chat function and a Q&A function. Please feel free to add your questions as we go. As always, as the chair, I'll put them to the panelists today, and we'll work our way through them. Thank you to everybody who supplied them earlier, and they've helped actually dictate our ongoing webinar series. But please feel free to jump in and get involved today. We've also, for the first time for an RJ Sanderson webinar, we've got our live polling. So we're looking forward to hearing directly from you as we progress. Without any further ado, let's get moving. Next slide, please, Stella. For those of you who don't know RJ Sanderson, thank you for joining us and welcome. It's great to continually expand our engagement with the wider community. We love helping people and businesses. So for those of you who don't know, 10 locations across Victoria, more than 100 staff and 35,000 clients, very happy clients and growing. So again, welcome. And welcome to, of course, to our valued clients and team. Thanks, Stella. How do we continue to deliver this and how do we continue to grow? Very simply, we put you at the center of everything we do. And this demographic here, or this infographic, just shows how we do that, surrounding you and your financial potential with professionals. Full-scale advice, removing the chance to miss any potholes and taking the blinkers off, encouraging you and our professionals to ask more questions and have a wider view, have a much wider engagement in achieving your financial goals and potential. Thanks, Stella. And of course, before we go too much further, ladies and gents, a quick disclaimer: we were never here. Everything we say today, never here. This just the music was. Everything we say today is very general in its nature. It will align with many of you. One, because most of you helped build today's topics. Thanks for your feedback and engagement. But also, it's very much focused on our market and client base. And as professionals, we see lots and lots of people every day. So although it may sound like it's specifically designed to talk to you and your current situation, please don't act on it until you speak to one of the professionals from RJ Sanderson. Put up your hand, grab the phone, send us an email. As part of today's webinar, of course, we always offer complimentary follow-up. So everybody on today's webinar will receive a complimentary follow-up to discuss your current situation and how we can work with you to achieve your goals. So please take that up, guys. Okay, next slide, Stella. Thanks. Joining me today is Roy Sanderson, Director and Founder of RJ Sanderson. Welcome, Roy. Lovely to see you again.
Yep. Photoshop's a wonderful thing. Thanks. Good to be here, Paul.
Great. Also, first timer today, Rick Terrell, one of our managers from RJ Sanderson. Welcome, Rick.
Thanks, Paul. Yes, first time, and it's a pleasure to be on the RJS webinars. It's rather exciting to be on, actually.
It's great. Yeah. One thing that's come out of lockdown is continued authentic and real engagement with our client base. So thanks to everybody online as well for continuing to engage this way. It's great to go across Australia to reach so many numbers in such a personal way. So thank you. Rick, don't be nervous, mate. We'll try not to leave you hanging too much. And we are recording everything, so we will replay this at the Christmas party.
I'm just glad to be out of my tracky dacks and t-shirt and jacket and shirt.
Welcome, fantastic. So for everybody at home, Rick and Roy, as you well know, particularly about Roy, but Rick also extremely experienced in helping businesses and coaching, mentoring people to where they need to get. So really looking forward to some personalised stories today, gents, and a great agenda to work through. Let's go. Stella, next slide, please. The road to recovery. Good future ahead. Everything comes to an end, including the tough times. So we know there's good times ahead. Let's work through the map that Roy and his team has put out for us to work on for now. Okay, that's a really good start. Let's do a poll first. So this poll's this gives us a chance to interact with everybody online. What we're looking for here, and the questions are very simple, guys. It's basically yes, no, or tick a box, and it's live data back to us. So this will tell us a bit about people on the end of the line, but it'll also allow us to share with everybody how people's businesses are going. So I'll give everybody 20 seconds to answer these. As I said, they're very simple. Tick the box and we'll get the results straight away. So COVID impact. To what extent have you or your business been affected by the COVID pandemic? Severely, moderately, somewhat, or not affected at all? Remember, there are lots of people that have actually grown during COVID and lots of businesses. How did you and your business go? Is the first one. And the second point is, do you have a documented plan in place for a COVID recovery? Have you thought about it? Do you know what the road ahead looks like? And have you put some plans in place? And the third question, did you take this as a chance to innovate? Did you take this as a chance to learn and grow? We've all heard Winston Churchill's famous quote, never waste a good crisis. Did this force you to think of new markets, new strategies, new efficiencies, new ways of doing business or communicating with your business? Three good questions, and that will help, particularly Roy and Rick, personalise the stories a bit more and insights. Okay, Stella, how are we looking?
So far, we have 50% of our attendees that have voted. We'll stay waiting for a few more. We'll give them another 20 to 30 seconds before we show the results.
Oh, come on, guys. It's too early to fall asleep. Press the buttons. Get motivated.
Yeah, this will help a lot, guys. How are we looking now, Stella?
We are now looking at 60%. A few more people are still thinking about their answers, but for those who are just looking to see what the results are, we will end the poll now.
Yes, thanks.
And share it with everyone.
Okay, the biggest one there in affected, moderately affected, 40%, followed by somewhat affected, and unfortunately 14% severely affected, and some not affected at all. So a bit of a mix there, but it looks like most of the audience is sitting in moderately or somewhat affected. Not surprising that everybody's been affected in some way. So we'll work through those. Have you got a documented plan? Nearly 70% of those who answered it don't have a documented plan. So we certainly want to address that. So you're in the right spot today. Well done. You've made the first step to making that happen. And did you innovate your business to take advantage? It's very close to split down the center, 54% yes, 46% no. So some have. Now that's not always a case of just not doing it. Often it's not being able to do it and not having the time. So let's put some plans in place. Let's share some stories and get some insights. Thank you, Stella. Thank you for everybody for sharing those polls. Let's get stuck into what we're here to talk about today. So we've broken the presentation up, or the 10 steps, into 5 key areas. The first 5, we'll work through them now. 1, appoint a mentor or an advisor. Look for someone else to give you ideas, bounce off someone you feel safe with. Secondly, what did you learn? Take time to reflect. And then reevaluate your services or products that are being sold. As I said before, is this a chance to think of doing something differently? Number 4, a fantastic one here. Make sure you've got some financial budgeting and forecasting in place. Make some educated choices based on facts and figures. And finally, create a business plan. Put something in place so that you can start to give yourself some structure and accountability. And don't be scared of structure and accountability. It's often great success, but great freedom in that structure. So let's kick off with point number 1, one of the most important ones. Appoint a mentor or an advisor. Roy, how does this work when you're working with clients?
Yeah, I feel strongly about this, especially when businesses are struggling. Now, not everybody knows what a mentor or advisor is, and this is not an RJS advert, by the way, because it doesn't have to be RJS, it could be somebody else. And right at the end, I'm going to explain how you can get some of this, a mentorship with a firm at no charge, so it costs you nothing. So hang around to the end when we share that. appointing a mentor, it's normally going to be a business person, accountant, an advisor, but it might be somebody in the industry that you're in. So if you're a real estate agent, it might be another real estate agent to actually share off each other's the experiences. Now, having a mentor or a coach is what they used to be called, or an advisor. What that entails is meeting at certain intervals. So you might have an hour's meeting today and set that every 2 weeks you have an hour's meeting. You might have a 2-hour meeting and every 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. Right now, I think 4 weeks is too long. But the idea is that you set your timelines. There are clients of RJS, 3 that I'm doing this for already. They're all on weekly at the moment, and they're 30 minutes. Sometimes the meeting goes for 10 minutes. Sometimes it goes for the full 30, but we close it at 30. And we do it every week. All of them are early morning, so that's not impacting on their day too much. And we talk about the business, and we go through some of these 5 steps and some other, the next 5 steps. And it is about setting what you've got to do between today and our next meeting. So having a mentor isn't about just a one-off appointment. It's about going through this whole process that you're going to learn today. Rick, any comments from you?
Yeah, well, it's all about business survival, as we know at the moment. And really that's designed for the mentor is to look, obviously, the next few weeks, but more importantly, the next 3 to 6 months to see if we can survive with what's happened, with now things opening up, etc. So that's the key focus that we have to, and we'll be mentors ourselves to many businesses, and that's what we'll be focusing on is A, business survival, and B, the next 3 to 6 months, more in particular than beyond that at this stage.
Yeah, I can't agree more, guys. I'll just go to both you. Roy first. What do you think 2 key attributes you should be looking for in a mentor? If we're out in the market and we know people, what key attributes, not qualifications, but what attributes in humans are we looking for as a mentor?
Needs to be a good business person, I feel. A person who knows business. I think they need to be financially minded. I use the examples of a real estate agent. I could have used the one of a carpenter. I certainly know many tradesmen who are brilliant tradesmen, and you might use them as a mentor to become a better tradesman, but to become a better business person, that's not who you would go to. You need business and financial skills.
Yeah, great. Rick, any attributes you'd look for in a mentor?
Well, you've got to be able to handle the emotional side of clients at the moment, I think, because a lot of business owners who have been greatly affected are going to be very emotional about the whole side. And in some cases, not that it's any of their fault, they might be embarrassed by their situation, and that's not, we'll be looking to get out of that situation to improve that.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic first step. You're right, Roy, in mapping our way outside of it. I challenge everybody who's on the webinar today. So not only appoint a appoint a mentor and advisor, but don't be scared to be one as well for your team or for other people. It works off the premise: see one, do one, teach one. You actually become better at what you're doing when you're mentoring someone else. So make yourself open to it, and you'll probably find more mentors coming towards you as well. It's something that I challenge all my business clients to do. And my team as well, to mentor others. You can take yourself further when bringing other people with you. So it's a great start. I think it's a first start. Well done. Next point. I think this is something that a lot of people won't like doing. Reviewing is not always fun. What could you have done better? What should you do more of or less of? So what did you learn during COVID? Where would you like your clients to start here, or business owners? What should they be looking at here?
I think what this is about is actually trying to assess what worked and didn't work in COVID. I've had a number of retailers who had a pretty ordinary website presence pre-COVID, and they realised very quickly that click and collect wasn't a big part of their pre-COVID strategy. But what they learned out of COVID was that they actually needed to improve their website. They needed to have a click and collect policy, which they'd never thought they'd ever needed before. So I think this is about looking at what you've just done and what did you learn from that? What can you do differently going forward? Take the positives and the negatives of COVID. into what's post-COVID.
Yeah, I agree. Rick, what are you seeing amongst your business?
Well, look, we've all had time to reflect, plenty of time to reflect on our businesses. It's probably a matter of setting new goals, most definitely setting new goals than what you had. And we need to do things differently and probably better in most cases.
Yeah. Rubber hits the road on this one. I think something we should all be looking at is engaging or surveying our teams and our market and clients. Get some great feedback from those, from all those people involved. Okay, let's move along a bit. Number 3, reevaluate your services and products being sold. Are they right for the current market and the future market? If you get the first 2 right, I think you'll be certainly really looking at these with a much deeper lens.
Yeah, this is where you do need an external person. You need somebody to look at what you're selling and whether that's a product or a service. And I know that they are very different beings and they're handled differently. But if somebody had a list of products they were selling, using COVID, reevaluate because of COVID, not just using COVID, but because of COVID, reevaluate the products that you have that you are selling. I've used an example explaining this to a particular client who had a coffee shop, and they were able to do pick up coffees, but they weren't selling much of their product, the cakes and savoury items, because they were only really busy for a certain time. They weren't selling breakfasty stuff. So, we came in, had a talk about what are they trying to sell in the morning that's not selling, and a reevaluation from an external person said, well, that's because nobody wants a chocolate eclair at 7:30 in the morning. Well, I shouldn't say nobody because I know some of you do, but they weren't selling many chocolate eclairs. So that's about looking at the product you're selling and being really critical about whether that's the right product. And you can apply the same to services.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the step prior, what did you learn is a great thing. And I know there's lots of studies being done now for businesses about what the environment looks like post-COVID. So where they've made changes, are they sustainable in the future? And have they gone too far or not far enough? So again, I think that question 2 or point 2 is really important there, where if you can get that data and feedback from your clients, from the market, your team, I think it'll help with that one. Number 4, here you go, guys. This is what you 2 love. Financial budgets and forecasts. Let's pull the inner accountant out. Why are these things so important? I shouldn't tell you, I love these as well because you make an educated choice. I love making decisions with facts in front of me. Talk to me about a budget and a forecast.
Ricky, you want to make a comment first?
Yeah, I'll go first, Roy, yes. Well, I think based on when you obviously start up a business, you set a budget and forecast. Well, we're almost starting businesses again in most cases. So it's a matter of, I think, over the next, normally you'd say do a 2 to 5 year forecast when you start a business, because you don't intend to be there for 1 year and you tend to go beyond. So you start with a 2 to 5. But with what's happened, I think we have to just look at a 1 year forecast and perhaps factor in if we have to go into lockdown again. God forbid we do, but if we do, but that could happen. And how is that going to have an impact on your business? So I think the focus has got to be on setting, perhaps go with a 1 year budget first, then lead into your 2 and 5, hoping that things are back to normal beyond that and that you've improved all your services and products, and go from there.
I find it really interesting that often I'll have a client that will come to me or RJS, any of us, and say, the bank have said I've got to do a forecast. I'm applying for a loan and because I've started this new business. And I look at the client and think, you've started a new business and you didn't do a forecast or a budget. How do you know it's going to make money? It's common sense that the bank ask you, because you actually should have done this before you started the business to see if it was viable. So you've actually started the business without doing something that I think is a basic thing you should do. Now, many business owners, they work in their business and they don't work on their business. And this is part of working on the business. This is probably, out of everything that's on our 10 steps, this is probably one of the most important. I know it's the accounting related one, but with spreadsheets, and we know that certain things are the same every month, the telephone bill, the rent, The wages bill might be a little variable depending on turnover, but a lot of these things we put in a spreadsheet, and in an hour, you can knock up most of a forecast or a budget. And the idea is to work out what your break even is that flows on from this to-do item, so that you know that if you're not going to sell X amount of product or X amount of services, you're going to lose money. So I think this is an important one, and it doesn't need a lot of help from an accountant. We should get involved, or an accountant or a financial type person should get involved. We have templates, so we can help you get this underway, go back and forward, fine tune it, so that you actually know what your target budget forecast is between now and I agree with Rick. I think often we say do 1, 3, and 5. I would focus on 1 year. Get between now and 1 year. And also, if we did have a relapse, we know what our critical sales points are and where we have to cut, because we're not going to get handouts called JobKeeper again. The government won't be able to go through that again if we do get a relapse.
Yeah, great. I think point 4 is a fantastic leverage or launching pad for point 5. And I think when you're doing your budget and forecast, there's a great chance, particularly now coming out of COVID, to start engaging with your supply chain and your distribution channels. And as I said before, what you learn, your client base will give you much more detail when you're forecasting. You'll actually start to think about what the market looks like in the future and how you're going to be affected by supply chain and distribution channels, which gives you a great factual number-based start for point 5. Which is create or update your business plan and involve all of your other key areas in that. What's next step for a business plan, Rick? Where do we go?
Yeah, business plans have always been something I've been passionate about. A lot of clients, most businesses have the business plan perhaps in one, or if there's a husband and wife business, perhaps it's in one of their heads, and they've got the partner may not know what that is unless you write it down. Now, you'd be amazed how many businesses out there do not have business plans, even if they've been going for several years. They still don't have a business plan. Things have changed greatly. When you do a business plan, and a lot of the banks obviously need business plans for finance purposes, except when you're starting up. But what puts people off doing a business plan is a lot of the headings you see on the business plan are all in technical terms. And you've got to narrow that down to layman terms to say, well, because you get all these technical terms and people don't know what they actually have to put in their plan. But it's a matter of getting things out of your head in simple terms on paper, and then perhaps seeing your accountant to review it at the end, because at the end of the day, the accountant can't do the business plan for you. It's in your head. And it comes down to breaking that business plan down into layman's terms, like what do you do? How do you do it? Who will do it for you, where you're going to do it, how you sell it, and how you control it. And they're the things that are the basics of a business plan, but often you see, marketing analysis and all this sort of stuff as the headings, but you break it down into those areas, then you apply those technical terms to each breakdown of what you put it into.
Yeah. Again, we can supply a template. Can't we, Rick? Because we have templates available. And on the back of what Rick said, I think every business person has a business plan, but 99% of it's in their heads. And you are much more likely to achieve a plan if it's written down. And I know of the many people that's on this webinar, there's at least a dozen clients that I personally look after. And some of you, I won't name and shame you, but some of you have recreated your business because you had to because of COVID. And I know you had a business plan, and I know for a fact it hasn't been written down because I haven't seen it, but it's in your head. And even some that I've discussed this week with, you'll be saying, oh, that's me. Yes, it's you. There's a number of you that I know it's not written down because we discussed it, but you didn't put it in point form. Don't overcomplicate it. Just put it in point form. This is my plan. This is what I want to do, how I'm going to do it, how I'm going to market, and the process on running this business. It can be quite simplified.
Yeah, keep it simple and sincere is always a great start. For those of you who aren't on Roy's hit list, who he's coming to get this week, our next webinar is the one-page business plan, which is a great starting point. As both Rick and Roy just said, it doesn't need to be technical. It just needs to be about you, and with some depth and support with a mentor and research, it can be fantastic. And it can be on one page. So our next webinar is on the 11th of November at lunchtime. So come along to that one if you're having trouble. Even if you're not and you want to review, come along to that. It'd be great. So business plans are a great start. We're going to move to the next slide now, ladies and gents. It's another poll. So we're going to ask a couple more questions to understand you a bit more. If we can go straight to the questions, please, Stella. 1, do you have a mentor? And 2, have you completed financial forecasting? Now, when Rick, Roy and I were talking and building this slide, that we thought that they were 2 really important points. We'll just let's see where we're at with their group. How are we looking? Who has a mentor? And have you completed a financial forecasting? This one should be above 80%, team. It's 2 ticks. Yes or no for both, please?
Unless somebody's making lunch, we expect it's an easy answer.
I'm hungry now. You talked about lunch.
You got results at lightning speed for this one, guys. So that's good to know. We have now 60% of our attendees who have voted. We'll give them a few more seconds before we share the results.
Thanks, Stella. Once we get the results, guys, we'll go over why Roy and Rick thought these were 2 really important points. We'll also share why. Actually, I'll wait for the results. Thank you. Do you have a mentor? 73% no, and financial forecasting 73% no. So that's a pretty big indicator. It's one of the reasons why both Roy and Rick picked these 2 points. Both of their experts said that these 2 are generally have the largest hurdles in front of people getting them in place. Rick, you're off mute. Can you tell me a bit about why people struggle with this?
Oh, well, I think with the mentor, you mean those 2 questions, Paul? Well, with the mentor side, often clients or businesses, they feel, like I think I said it before, they feel a bit embarrassed about having to go to someone for perhaps direction, but there's no need to be, especially with what's happened, that no need to have that embarrassment side to it anymore. So you've just got to bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah,
that's with the mentor side. The financial forecasting, again, I think Roy mentioned it, that everyone, I think they just don't put pen to paper and just don't get it done.
Yeah. Roy, any insights to these 2 points? A little bit about why it's hard and why you value them so much?
I don't think it's hard to appoint a mentor. I think it's just, you just need to you need a little push to say, I should do this. I suspect sometimes it's cost involved. But when you're meeting with an accountant for an hour every 3 weeks, like even our half-hour meetings that I'm doing with a number of clients now, the cost-benefit ratio is huge. The benefit's huge, absolutely huge. And with financial forecasting, that applies to businesses, but it applies to us as individuals as well. Our income is X and our expenditure is Y, and we should know, am I in front or am I not in front? Am I spending too much on the credit card each month? And if I am, what am I spending it on? And it's going to be interesting because we're about to come into an area where we're going to be outspending. There'll be more restaurants. There'll be more petrol. There'll be more traveling. There may be holidays coming up that we didn't expect. So having a financial forecast from a business perspective and a personal perspective is not a bad thing.
Absolutely. There's nothing more powerful than knowing what you earn, knowing what you spend, and then doing something smart with what you got left. That helps you achieve all your goals. Great. I think getting a mentor too, making sure that that's why I asked about those attributes, finding those types of people that align with you, and having some structure to it. It doesn't have to be so professional that it's not enjoyable, but some structure and as you said, Roy, keeping a regular basis is great. You can have more than one too. Okay, thanks, Stella. We'll move on to the next 5 now, please. Here's a great one that will form part of some of your planning: goals, targets, and mission statements. Really, really important stuff. Roy, why do you like these to be seen and heard?
Well, they can form part of your business plan, but they can also be exclusive and different, because your business plan can be about how you're doing things and the process of doing things. This is then about saying, well, I'm achieving 100,000 in sales. I want to achieve 150. You can set your targets and your mission statement, which I think are important to give the business direction. Less crucial if you're in a sole trader type business, much more important if you've got people that work for you, in my opinion. So yeah, I think they're pretty important.
Yeah, Brett.
Yeah, well, that generally those three points really form part of that, going back to your business plan, and really should be a part of your business plan. And again, we've all got to have goals, and to achieve those goals, we have to set targets to get there. So again, it's a matter of having that down on paper and not just in your head.
I think coming out of COVID in the last 12 months that we've been through, I think if you had these in place now, certainly time for a review, because I think it's very important to do next 3 and 6 months, your goals will be vastly different. And the real power of having them set for the next 3 and 6 months is you can share them, as you said, with your team, share them with your market, share them with your clients, because they're the people that are going to help you get there. And they will be different to what they have been in the past, including your mission statement. Your mission for the next 3 months might be very different to the business you started 10 years ago. And it will involve your clients and your team. So share it, scream it out, and change it and work with it. SWOT analysis. This is been around for a very long time, but a very powerful tool. Rick, what do you like about SWOT analysis?
Well, every time I see SWOT analysis, I have to think, what does SWOT analysis mean? And I'm sure a lot of clients and businesses out there think SWOT analysis, I mean, a couple of them are obvious, but what do they all mean? So you're looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And strengths and weaknesses comes to mind straight away. The other two, you have to think about a bit. But it's really, when you're talking about SWOT analysis, the strengths, I mean, the strengths, you've probably thought about your strengths over the last 6 months. Comes back to your personal traits. So are your communication skills good? Are your negotiation skills, your motivational skills good? Are you good at working under pressure? In particularly, are you productive working from home? And that's a big one through accounting firms, for example. We've had all our team working from home. So that's one that's becomes, is that a strength? And hopefully for most of us it is. Your weaknesses, I think over COVID we've seen that a lot of emotional, and there's been a lot of emotional people out there, and probably stubborn, and that get stressed very easily. And that's probably a lot of clients have found that that's probably in most of us, those sort of weaknesses. But opportunities going forward, I mean, there's obviously opportunities to network. I mean, we've seen technology has been the big one, that most of us have had to learn to do things on the computer that we didn't used to do before. And perhaps in a lot of businesses, there's chances to employ new staff and creating new job opportunities, which going forward, which would be great. And threats, I mean, the big one that comes to mind with what's happened is there may be a lot of newcomers in your particular industry with advanced technology, etc., that may affect your business, and you may have to change your business around to compete going forward. So, I mean, there's a lot of other things under SWOT analysis that you can talk about, but they're the things that just come to mind with what's happened.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Roy?
Interestingly, threats, I don't think anybody who has ever done a SWOT analysis, I shouldn't say anybody because I know somebody who did this, put down the threat, COVID-19 or a pandemic of any sort. But I say I know somebody because what has been famously reported is that there is a soccer team in Europe that took out an insurance on a pandemic hitting that meant the season was to cease. They would get paid all their sponsorship money. And because it had very rarely, or if ever it happened before, that insurance was factored into their policy, and they got paid out many millions of dollars, despite the fact that the season didn't go ahead and sponsors walked away because they didn't have money. So somebody had thought about it, but pretty uncommon.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be writing those into any insurance policies ever again.
No, I think you're right, Rick. I don't think anybody will be able to get that in an insurance policy going forward. It's gone.
Correct. I love a SWOT analysis because it can be a 1-page, 4 quadrants, done. You can see it really easy in dot point. I think it's a great tool.
Yeah,
Okay.
Sorry, Paul, I just might add, this is a SWOT analysis is something you actually do with your mentor. And again, it's not selling RJS services, but you do it with somebody because you won't think of all the SWOT items. You actually need to bounce it around with somebody and get their opinion.
It's good to be challenged. And strength, weakness, opportunity, threats, believe it or not, everybody at home, they can be in the same boxes. The strength can actually be a weakness, can be an opportunity. So don't be scared to have the same topics in the boxes at sometimes. It allows you to address them in each area. But you're right, bounce it off someone. Great work. Okay, marketing and promotion. This is commonly the thing that most people drop first when times get tough. We're talking about working our way out. What should we be thinking about now? How do we start to re-engage? Why is it important to have this in our approach to get out of a bad time, right?
Yeah, look, when we've got to save money, this is the one that you tend to save money on. And when things are tough, you've actually got to reassess what you are doing from a marketing perception. And there is some very cost-effective marketing available now. We'll call it social media, but it can be very cheap to get marketing out there. And I think reassess what has worked in the past, what works for your industry, maybe your not necessarily your business, but what appears to have worked for other businesses that you can take on board. And I think by reassessing the marketing and promotion is very important going forward. It's part of a whole business plan, if you like. So we've broken this up somewhat between what becomes a holistic business plan, may have a marketing promotion proposal in it. But I think most businesses, every business has done some sort of marketing, even if it's just word of mouth. List out in dot form what you've done in the past and then maybe rate it. What's worked and what hasn't. And you must measure. There was something on the chat line that says you can't if you can't measure it, it's no good. You can actually measure marketing. You can ask clients where they come from. I know at RJS we do, and we have a place on our computer to say that was word of mouth, that was 3OW, that was our RJS TV, that was the internet. And I had one this week that when I asked the question, what brought you to RJS? I saw an ad in the local paper, and I would have suggested that doesn't work as well as it used to, but monitor where people are coming from.
Yeah, it's a great way to understand your market. Yeah.
Yep.
Rick, anything we should be looking at from your point of view?
Well, one word springs to mind from me, and that's website. There's a lot of businesses that still don't have them, and hopefully they've taken this opportunity over this time to decide, well, actually we do need that website. Yeah, great. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember you can ask questions during the presentation. So if you've got anything, just tap it away in the Q&A. Some great insights so far. Okay, this next one might be a bit hard for people to understand at home. Reporting and management. Can you just give me a bit of an understanding what you mean by that, Rick? And then we'll move on to why it's so important, just so we're all on the same page. Well, reporting and management for me is any business that, certainly if you're a company or a trust on the bigger scale of the business side, you should be getting reporting or management reports done, not necessarily quarterly. Some need them quarterly, not necessarily monthly, but at least twice a year, not just come in at the end of the year and do your reports and say, well, we can't really do much for you at the end of the year because it's based on historical. Everything's historical, and you can't say, you should have put more money into super, you should have done this to save tax. Our job as accountants is certainly to save everyone out there tax in the best way we can. But to do that, you need to get figures done more than once a year. Now, I've always prided myself in encouraging my businesses to do them at least at the end of March every year. And then you can forecast the last 3 months, because by the time you do your 9 months figures, you've got an idea of what April was. You're probably halfway into May before you finish. And then you've got a very good guide of what the outcome's going to be. But you've also got time, weeks up your sleeve, to outlay a bit of money to save your dollars. So a lot of businesses tend to worry about the extra costs and accounting fees, but the accounting fees are far outweighed by the tax savings you obtain from getting those figures done more regularly. And again, like I said, at least twice a year, but for many businesses out there, it can be even quarterly or monthly, depending on what's required for that business.
Yeah, I'm gonna quote John Emile from our office.
I was just about to do that.
Who's put through something on our chat line to the panelists, and it's spot on. I've heard John say this numerous times. John's the manager of our finance team, RJS Loan Solutions, and he says you cannot manage what you cannot measure. And this is probably, it's all right to have a great business, but if you're not measuring it and managing it, well, if you're not measuring it, you can't manage it. And the point of this, I think this number 9 is the old-fashioned thing of once a year doesn't work. There's things like Xero that has live reporting, and we can have a profit and loss done within 24 hours based on live reporting, cash flow balancing, because of Xero and bank feeds. And I know MyOb have it as well. The other packages, if you're on one of the other packages, come and talk to us about getting onto something that's a little better. The Mercedes is going to be a lot better than the Mini Minor. But I think things like Xero and having live reporting and bank feeds, these are a thing of the future, and these are important to put them into businesses. And I think that's the point of item number 9.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad you brought that up. To me, it's speed. I think well and truly gone are the days of quarterly reporting, or certainly annually reporting, mainly because the technology allows us to be live today. But if you're off track, you want to be off track for as minimal time as possible and get back on track to your forecast. So the live reporting, live measurement allows you to do that. So I think that's essential to make sure we're all looking at that regularly. I know we do it weekly and quarterly, so it works really nicely. Okay, point 10, repeat and reinvent. I think this is a fantastic point as well. Roy, I know you spoke a lot about this to me prior. What do you mean? What do we do here? What's point 10 all got for us?
In business, it's interesting, but in business, there's no end to business. There's no end day. You don't wake up and go, hey, it's over. Business is always going to need to be evolving, and you need to evolve with it. And although you might have a mentor that will take you through the 10 steps, you will get to the end and you may have a break and go, right, I'm now going to focus on these things. But at item 10 means I've got to go back to the start. I mean, the fact is we redo our business plan every 2 years. We do a marketing plan every 12 months. And it doesn't mean we can do a marketing plan and go, it's done, I'm finished, job's finished, and in the next 5 years I don't have to worry about it ever again. No, you actually do have to worry about it again, because your market will change, your customers change, the product will change, the services change. So you do need to repeat, go back to step 1 and do it all again.
Yep. Rick?
Yeah, and you only have to tweak things when you've already done it once. You only have to tweak things. You don't have to start from scratch again. It's just a matter of tweaking and making sure you've allowed for all the changes. I noticed, I saw a report today that there's been 150,000 new ABNs since May, between May and July, and that's during COVID period. So, I mean, there is going to be competition out there with new businesses that are on the scene. So we have to do these and take action. Yeah,
great. Okay, thanks, gents. We'll open up for questions now. Is there anything you wanted to finish with before we went to questions?
I do want to finish to explain our mentoring program can be attained by any of our listeners for free, but I'll do that right at the end.
Fantastic. Right, so the first questions come through prior is, what do we need to do to prepare for these 10 steps? In other words, I think people are asking, what do they need to get together? And I think, reading between the lines of the question, this is one of the hurdles to achieving some of these 10 steps, is people overcomplicate and get paralysis through analysis. What do they need to do to make it happen?
The first step is a mindset step. It is a mindset. You make the decision in your mind that you want a mentor. You then ring or appoint a mentor, somebody that can handle your sort of industry and your business. And then in that conversation. So your first step is mindset. Second step is going to be make a phone call to somebody to say, this is what I need. How do you go about it? And that's when in that conversation, that is almost point one of our 10 steps. That is when you decide, are we going to be needing weekly, fortnightly, 3 weekly, monthly? How long do you think we'll need? And that's the mentor assisting, going back and forward. And it's about being effective with our time, efficient, and making sure that there's absolute benefits to the organisation, that they're getting benefits from it.
Yeah. And I think if you get the right mentor, I'd suggest you could follow the next 9 steps that we just outlined as a structure. As I said before, there's great benefit and structure with the mentor.
The mentor,
follow those 10 steps, and you have the right mentor, you can get the outcome.
Yeah, that's the mentor's role, Paul, is to walk the person through those 10 steps. That might not be 10 weeks or 10 meetings, because the financial forecast you might do over 2 meeting periods where you're going back and forward. So you don't, if you've appointed, let's say it's 1 hour every 3 weeks, just as an example, or the state government one, it's 1 hour, it's 2 hours every 3 weeks. And in that 2 hours, you mightn't get the financial budget, if you're up to that step, completely finished. But you finish that meeting knowing you've got an appointment in another 3 weeks' time, and knowing that these are the things I've got to do in that 3 weeks. You become accountable to each other on who's going to do a little bit of work between now and our next meeting, so that we are moving forward.
Yeah. Anything you think we should be taking for next steps or first steps, Rick?
Yeah, I think each business is going to be different, and they'll require a mentor for different reasons. And possibly the most urgent subject that might pop up is debt reduction and cash flow going forward. And there's things you might have to talk about in your first meeting to get things rolling. But it's a matter of, if you're trying to keep it all to yourself, you just got to get that help. Yeah. A great question's just come through while we're talking about mentors. Are the investment and fees for a mentor, are they tax deductible?
Yes, they are.
Yeah. There you go.
So mentorship is business advice, tax advice, and everything we just talked about. All that is tax deductible.
Yep.
And in some cases, they will be free, as Roy will mention shortly.
Yep.
Yeah. I'd suggest that there's not a restriction on the amount of mentors you can have. You don't want too many, but you can look in multiple places, and some you wouldn't have to pay for, as you said. Okay. That's it for questions now. Jess, did you want to circle back on anything in particular? I know Roy's got some things you want to talk about. Anything from you, Rick?
No, I think we've covered all off, Paul. It was a pleasure doing one of these webinars with you guys.
Fantastic. Roy, I know you want to talk about something very special, which is great.
Yep. So now's probably the right time. So if there's anybody on this webinar that thinks this is a good idea, yes, RJS do the webinars. We do charge our fee, a normal fee for it. So we have an hourly rate. If we set it for half-hour appointments, you'll be charged half hour. But it's also, what we're doing is often we'll bring a second person into the meeting at no charge. So if you're going to have a 1 hour meeting, it may be with me, but I might have Rick Tyrrell in the meeting as well, and you're not going to get charged for 2 people, because what we're trying to do, this is not about making money for RJS. This is about building a very strong business going forward. The more successful our business clients are, the more successful RJS are. So we will try and bring somebody in where we can, if we can, that may have different skills or different opinions or specialties in the industry you're talking, or because your issue right at the moment is technology or website, or somebody else because it's marketing. So the early meetings, we assess what needs to be done. Some of the later meetings, we will bring a second person in off our mentor panel. But that's how you get it cheap. But here you go. There are 2 ways to get a mentor program free. The first one is that 3AW will be giving away a free mentorship valued at $4,000 to any business that believes they need it. You just need to listen to 3AW and register on their website. That's going live on their website in the week after the Melbourne Cup. So that is next week, I think. So it'll be late next week. The marketing program, it is branded by 3AW and RJS. So they've joined forces with us to give away a free mentorship. So that's one way you can get it. The other way, probably a little bit more exciting because it's not left to chance. VECI, the Victorian Chamber Commerce and Industry, that's the Victorian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, VCCI. If you search their website, they actually have a mentoring program that is funded by the state government. RJS are one of the few accounting firms that are on that panel. So we got approved, selected. We have 15 team members that have been approved to give mentorship based on all sorts of industries and specializations. So if you go to Vecchi, apply, they have a process to determine who gets it. And instead of you paying our fees, the fees are paid by the state government under one of the grant systems. So how good is that?
I've got the eligibility for that up, Roy. You have to be a small business owner as a sole trader, partnership, private company or trust that carries on a small business, employing less than 20 full-time employees and hold an active ABN. So it's not a broad range of criteria you have to meet. So a lot of businesses will fall under the umbrella.
Yeah, they will. And in the application process, they will ask for some figures from you about your business, how your business is going, so that behind the scenes they're assessing, they want to assess that you do need some help. And they will then assess based on your area and business what firms they'll put up from the panel. It may be RJS, it may not be. And again, if you get that free with some other mentor, getting the advice and making your business strong is number one priority for us. Whether it's done through us or another firm, we're not fussed about that. We're doing mentoring for a number of business clients that aren't our clients. They're clients of other accounting firms. We're just doing the mentor part of it.
Yeah, I think it's a great program, guys, and well done putting that in place. I've just got a question from Jason. Can we be saying that the mentor should be a jack of all trades? What's your thoughts on that?
Not necessarily a jack of all trades, Jason, because I don't think any of us are perfect at everything. That we're very good at various areas. So he or she are going to be good at business. That's certainly good, financially strong, but we will bring in specialists. And this is why I made the comment about we'll have two people in some of our meetings. I know from experience that some clients have had problems with technology. It is their systems aren't right, internal computer systems. They've failed getting Xero set up correctly, or they've stuffed up MyOb. So that won't be me telling the client, go and fix it, because I don't know how to do that. And I'm not the one personally who's going to be able to get in there and fix it. So I'll bring in somebody else who may be a technical expert, our cloud and technological person, or I may bring in somebody else depending on what the problem is. So it doesn't always have to be one person. It will be one person that might control it, but we'll bring in specialists within the organisation where we need it, or refer it out to say, your problem is you've got a legal problem. There's legal issues with your business at the moment that we've identified in this whole mentoring program, and we'll refer it out to a solicitor and say, this is what we need to get from the solicitor. So not jack of all trades.
Yeah, good point. Okay, team, can we just go to our last polling question? I think this wraps up what we're trying to find out from everybody listening today too. So we just go straight to the question, please, Stella. It's imperative that we're asking this, ladies and gents, and it's imperative that we're thinking about this as business owners. What do you think the chances are of Victoria going back into lockdown? We've seen it through Europe, we've seen it in multiple countries. And if that's the case, are you ready for it? What have you thought about what processes have been in place? Now, today's webinar has been about 10 steps of advancing ourselves out of lockdown and having a resilient business. I think this is important that we address this question pretty quickly, and it certainly should be part of every one of the steps we've just spoken about. So what do you think of the chances of going back in lockdown? Likely, somewhat, or not likely? And are you ready for it in case this happens? Or if it doesn't, what's your plans? What have you got in place?
Great poll, Paul, because I think it's very interesting to see what people's opinion is, and this will be a good one to share with all the listeners on this webinar to say, this is what, I know it's only our people that are listening to this webinar, but it's a pretty good sample size to see what the feeling is at the moment. Yeah,
absolutely. I'd love to get as high a strike rate on this as we can, ladies and gents. It's just 2 tick boxes. That'd be fantastic. I think planning for this, there's examples of businesses that have planned or had a war chest approach, planned for downturns and actually survived COVID very well. And there's a chance for us to think about it. How are we looking, Stella?
This one is by far the most engaged poll question. Most of our attendees, 75% of our attendees have voted. We'll end the poll now.
5 more seconds, guys. Let's get this above 80, please. Because I think we'll all benefit from everything we've done today, but we'll all certainly benefit from thinking what our fellow business owners and people are thinking. Did we hit 80, Stella?
76, very close.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. We'll share the results now.
Okay, lay it on us, Stella. What do the numbers look like?
Somewhat likely. And are you ready? That's great. 60% are ready for it. That's fantastic. I'd love to know what people are doing for that, but that is unreal. Well done, everybody that's pointing to that. Roy, any comments on that?
Yeah, look, for the 28% that says they're not ready, if it does happen again, gee whiz, I think it'd be a good idea, even if it's a modified mentorship. I would think you want to do some thinking and maybe some work around if it all goes to crap again, what do I need to do so I am not going to be affected? Because, look, lay down misère, we're not going to get JobKeeper given to us again. That won't happen. The government have spent so much, it's not likely to happen ever again. So, yeah, I think that 28% is most critical and interesting. More than half the people think it's somewhat likely we'll have a recurrence. So, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
There's certainly, the world is what we did in the last 2 years won't be what we're doing in the next 2 months. There's certainly lots of changes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for joining us. We're right on time. For those who, as I said earlier, we've already spoken about this. The one-page business plans is our next webinar, which will be certainly beneficial given what we've spoken about today. Last word goes to our panel of experts. Rick, in 5 words or less, what action should everybody be taking during this webinar today to start to drive towards this success? What should they do? They're at home, they're at work listening. Give me 5 words or less, or 5 things they can do today to start making this happen for them.
I'll give you 3. Proactive, not reactive.
Got it. Love it. Roy?
I'd go to Vecchi and register. I would maybe listen to 3W, try and win that. And I would actually suggest that you do register for the next webinar. It is free. It's about RJS giving information to our clients because we think you need it. And the next webinar is part of what you will learn. That is part of the mentoring program, how to do a one-page business plan.
Appreciate your time. Yeah, absolutely. Really simple, sincere tools. And most of all, to our clients and friends who have joined us, thank you, Rick, for another RJS Live and Interactive webinar. Have a fantastic day and look forward to speaking soon. Cheers. See everyone. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone.